If you are a travel and hospitality tech startup or entrepreneur, the next session will bring you to the panel discussion on the Thailand as a platform for ASEAN TravelTech. Stay tuned with us for the experts from the tourism, travel technology, digital travel marketing, and distribution channel. The expert will join with us on the stage and exchange their knowledge and experiences as well as the idea for you to do business to become the ASEAN travel tech startup as well. We are honored with the presence from our distinguished panelists who join with us on the stage, and I'm sure this session is the promising session that make fun and enjoyment by all to everyone as well. Can we allow me to introduce the panelists upon the stage? First up, please welcome Mr. Simon Akeroyd, Vice President Corporate Strategy and Business Development, Amadeus Asia Limited.
I think I'll go in the middle. Thank you.
Second up, please welcome Mr. Songwut, Apirakkhit, Managing Director, Thai-Amadeus Southeast Asia. Next up, Mr. Shivek Sachdev, the Advisor of Tourism Council of Thailand. Next up, Mr. Amonche Jinda Apirakkhit from Take Me Tour. And please welcome Moderator, Mr. Bart, Managing Director, Atum Consulting, Belgium. Welcome all gentlemen, and here is your floor.
Hi. Well, thank you very much for the introduction. Let me first introduce myself. I'm the moderator for today of the panel. My name is Bart Beller. Some of you might have seen me yesterday doing a presentation on corporations and startups. The introducers spoke about travel tech in ASEAN TravelTech, maybe Thailand having to become a hub or a platform. The real reason why we have this panel is because I want to know whether I made the right decision leaving Amadeus, the market leader in travel tech, last Friday, and come to Bangkok and set up a hub for travel tech. Now, that's a joke, of course. The first thing is we're going to discuss on travel tech indeed, how it is related to the other ecosystems, what the private and public sector can do. And I would like, first of all, the panel members themselves, a very esteemed panel here with a lot of experience, to introduce themselves, what angle they can bring to the panel, and yeah, Mr. Songwut.
สวัสดีครับ Good morning everyone. My name is Songwut Apirakkhit. I'm the managing director of the Thai-Amadeus. People are wondering what is Thai-Amadeus. Thai-Amadeus is a joint venture company between Thai government and Amadeus IT from Spain. We are the one who do the B2B business and oversee all the IT system behind all the travel agency in 4 countries, which are Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, and Cambodia.
Thanks. Yes. Good, Simon.
Okay. So I'm Simon Akeroyd. I head up corporate strategy and business development for Amadeus, the mother group in Asia Pacific. So we're in partnership with Kun Songwut here. And Amadeus is an IT provider to the travel industry. It's the world's biggest IT provider. We're a quoted company with a market cap of around $25 billion, and we are in 200 countries serving airlines, hotels, travel agents, rail, the whole spectrum of travel.
สวัสดีครับ My name is Shivek Sachdev. I'm on board of the Tourism Council of Thailand. You can think of us as the go-to guys, so we're in between the operators and the government. So we're just in between, yeah, basically just that. Thanks.
สวัสดีครับ Hi, my name is Taro, CEO and co-founder of Take Me Tour. Take Me Tour basically is the largest marketplace for local tours in Thailand. We connect more than 30 million travelers coming to Thailand every single year with the real local people for the local experiences.
Okay, thank you. I see we have 45 minutes. We still have 45 minutes, even though we are already talking 5 minutes, so maybe the timer should go. Let me quickly introduce the area, the space, okay? TravelTech itself is the largest e-commerce business in the world. It has 10% of global GDP. And when you visit startup conferences, events, you don't see this as a vertical. You always have a fintech space, an education space, a stage where you do something on health tech, but travel tech itself doesn't have that. Can you explain maybe, Simon, if I can go to you first, can you explain me what you think are the reasons for that?
Well, first of all, I agree, it's a surprise, but I think that's partly a surprise to me because I come from the travel industry, from tourism industry, so I'm very aware of it and I see it all as one large opportunity, but maybe from the outside it looks a bit more fragmented. So when we see how fintech worked, for example, in Thailand, there are natural go-to players that pull everything together, so the banks formed a very important part of that. But in tourism, it's much more fragmented. There is no sort of single driving force of corporates that pulls everything together. It's also an extremely broad category. So we talk about 10% of GDP, but it covers a huge amount of spectrum of players in there. So you have airlines and hotels, you have the online travel players. It's very, very broad and very fragmented, and it just hasn't quite gelled into one vertical just yet. I don't know why, but maybe we'll discover today why that is.
Shivek, I mean, maybe because the whole point is also, I mean, I'm not going to ask all the questions, so I would like this to be a conversation so everybody can do it. I don't have a job, that's good. Shivek, what do you think about what Simon just said? I mean, that it's more about the way the industry itself is.
I was supposed to say these things, but yeah, he said it before me now. But I agree with this. We had this conversation when we were walking up here, you know, saying that you can identify the big players in the banking or the securities industry, and those are the guys who comes together, you know, and create this, you can say, platform. And there is an initiative or a drive to push them forward. The same thing applies to health tech as well. There's only a few majority, you know, hospital chain in Thailand. So that's why the benefits are inclined and aligned to their strategy to create something to drive the market forward. Whereas in the tourism industry, it's all fragmented, you're right, and it's all scattered, and it's localized to different particular regions as well. You know, if you're looking at Thailand, for example, it's all different. If you go to one place from place A to place B, or from Bangkok to Phuket and Krabi, you will find that the landscape is actually different. It's not the same. So it's very hard to have that, you know, general push and drive to create a platform where everyone can participate on. So yeah, to answer your question, I agree with what Simon just said. It's what I just wanted to say as well.
Okay, so there is, one hand, there is a need to become such a platform. The other thing is that it's going to be difficult. It's kind of fragmented. Now, why do you think that fintech and health tech are successful in doing that? What are the reasons that they are successful? Not the reason why travel tech is not successful. What's the reason that Songwut?
Yeah, I would say, since I have background from the bank treasury, I would say that there are certain demand and certain need that customer needed but are not fulfilled yet. For example, those who don't have the access to financial facility in the traditional way, and even some of those can get access but not enough, meaning underserved. And there are also some certain group of people who gain the access but misuse them, right? These are the problem, and also as well as the high margin. As you see in the Thai market, there are some high margin between loan and deposit. As you see, that's for certain agreement that people want to move away from such high fee, right? And in this particular sector of banking business in Thailand, there are quite oligopoly somehow, not many player, big player, and they can put in $millions of dollars into that area. That's why the fintech is become phenomenal.
Okay.
Right.
Maybe it's good to give the word also to Kuntaro as being really the startup in the panel. Is it mainly also the investment that is behind fintech, or are there other things that you as a startup in the 2 years and a half that you exist have seen come across and need?
So for me, I was actually discussing with my friends and then start having questions like similar to what you asked, like why we are such a big country such as Thailand for travel, why there's just a handful of travel startups or even like very small amount of travel startups. And to me, I feel like for fintech, there's a people, either like private sector who actually would like to push that. It's actually related to what Simon and Kun Shivek just said. So there's more like a conglomerate somehow that like they want to push this because they have their own benefits as well. But for travel, there's like not counting airlines and hotel or accommodations, like the rest of them are very like small and fragmented. So people might want or might not want because they feel like if they just push the whole thing, either they cannot do it as a whole, or either they just do it for someone else. And I feel like people might not want to push it. And then people have been thinking, okay, then there should be government jobs. And obviously still not happening yet.
Yeah. Can I?
Sure. Can I just say something?
Don't ask me whether you can say something. Just
want to make sure you saw my signal. Well, basically what I feel right now is that there are expertise and there are barriers, in fintech and health tech. You need some sort of an expertise to be in that industry. Whereas in travel industry, what Taro said, clicked on my mind, saying that, they're all scattered, all fragmented, and you don't really need to have that expertise to come up with your own travel business, do you? I can just open a company, and I'm not talking about hotels, but many of the hotels and in the service industry in Thailand, it's ranging from traditional businesses, family businesses. They never went to hotel school. They never took any degree, but as you can see, they have their own hotel. So expertise are not there. But whereas in banking, you do have to have some expertise, and there are regulations in the banking industry as well. Same applies to the health tech industry.
Yeah. Can I? Well, not entirely agree. And let me explain this from which angle it comes. I don't think the guy from Uber ever had a taxi business, or the guy from Airbnb ever had a hotel. What I'm trying to say, it's being from a certain schooling or only the education, and you remain within the box of what is known, okay? Taro probably, this is really local tours to local guides. This is something that wasn't done before. So he's facing definitely, explain a little bit maybe, Taro, what are the problems that you face because you do something different?
So one of the main problems we are facing is the awareness. I would say because we try to do something new, so we will try to do something like let anyone can be the tour guide, can lead activities, can do something new. So I feel like this is something still new. So if you ask like a lot of travelers arriving in Thailand, many of them still don't know that they can do this kind of thing yet. So one of the biggest problems for us is actually awareness.
Yeah. I think you do need expertise.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that's one of the things that's fundamentally missing. I think there are ideas that come up around travel where people they start with a good idea, with an intention to fulfill a service, to solve a problem they know, but ultimately that problem has to find customers, it has to find a revenue model, and it has to connect to what already exists in travel today. It's fragmented, I said it's true, but there are also some backbone technology parts that you would have to connect to. You can't rebuild this whole thing on your own. And for me, the thing that I see not yet working in travel, but that we have seen work in fintech and health tech, is that injection of skill and in the injection of expertise in this particular vertical, but it has to come from corporates. There is a part for me that I see, and I am a corporate, so I feel like I have an obligation to do it.
You're talking to yourself,
but,
right?
But I'm trying to encourage more corporates to do it. I see yesterday, and many events I've been to over the past few weeks in Thailand, the government is making an effort. They are trying, they're putting their backing behind it, and the startups are keen to receive something, but there's a middleman role, and that's where I think the corporates and people like me and other corporates need to do more.
So if you're talking about corporates, Songwut maybe, which are the key players you think that should be involved from the private sector? I mean, Amadeus apparently is really keen to do that.
Actually, I just would like to add to the point that Kun Simon is saying here is that if you go back to many industry, for example in banking, the IT people who came into bank, they actually don't have to know anything about the banking. But the IT that came to work for travel agency, you really need to learn. You need to have a learning curve to get to know this complex system or industry. It's not just overnight and then you can do everything. Therefore, to come back to your point is that these big organizations in this industry, they surely find that the competition is fiercely in coming year, and therefore they need to nurture the ongoing process of having these new blood people coming to the business in order to bring some expertise from other industry coming into travel in order to make it expand. Right.
So if we're looking at, we've been talking a bit on the ecosystem itself, travel tech versus what are the success factors. If you look at Thailand specifically, not only on the tourism of Thailand, I think Thailand is ideally placed, but becoming really a hub in ASEAN. So you go a little bit broader than Thailand, right? If you look at that, which would be the key players that you, from the private sector, that you would like to be involved in such a community or an ecosystem? Taro, which ones do you want?
Would love to start with the government. Also the difficult one, the most difficult one. But I think
we'll talk about the government later. Let's first go for the corporates.
The corporates, I mean, back to, I also would like to add on a bit on what Simon said previously. So the involvement of the corporate, I do feel like they will greatly help startup. But I would like also to add, like they have to feel that they need to be innovative, not just because they are forced to do so. Because if they just realize once they are forced to do so, you will be, I mean, things won't be that efficient. And also in the country level, so for Thailand, so we have to be, we need someone who is visionary enough to actually see that we need it right now, not only when we need it, or not only when we are forced to do so. So I think, I'm not sure, I think it might be similar to what Japan did. So the Olympics coming up, so they need to revise a lot of regulations and laws to cope with the upcoming Olympics. But I think we need to see that ahead of time, and then then we can do this disruptive technology efficiently.
Do you see any corporates that exist today in Thailand that are ready to make that innovation leap, the ones that will come and help you?
There might be some. Like I would say those, I mean, once we travel, so everyone needs to start with the airlines and accommodation space. So those big conglomerate or the company in either airlines or accommodation space need to move.
Can you give me some names, Simon? Yeah, I mean, I want some names. I want to hear some names in ASEAN of corporations that should come together and really put something behind it, like what has been done by the banks in fintech. Give me some names.
I'll give you some focus. Well, I think there's a group of names. The OTAs would be clearly a group, the Agodas and those kind of people, they're key. But I think that's a very narrow vision of travel tech. And I think maybe there's been a bit too much focus in the startup scene on that OTA part, on the B2C problems. I'd like to see more on solving the B2B problems. So Thailand has for example, Thailand has a huge amount of tourism experience from the servicing perspective. So a massive amount of hotels, very much in the long tail. All those hotels, not necessarily the 5-star chain hotels, but the smaller hotels, they need to be brought up to date. Their systems need to be overhauled and they need focus. So some hotel organization, an institution of hotels, whatever representative body that could be, they need to come forward and sort of aggregate all of that fragmented 3-star hotel players. And you would need the same from the LCCs, the low-cost carriers need to come together. I mean, it's more pockets of focus than it is specific companies. And in fact, I think if you say specific companies, they tend to take the issue and steer it in the direction of their own benefit. So
it should be more neutral,
I think.
I would like to give some background information for the audience. When Kun Simon saying about the OTA, OTA is online travel agency. When he's saying about LCC, that is low-cost carrier airlines such as Thai ASEAN, Nok Air, Thai Smile. And I just would like to add to your point is that what is the advantage of Thailand in becoming a hub? For example, surely we see we are in the middle of Southeast Asia. That is the one advantage we have. And if you look at the statistic, if you look at the Suvarnabhumi, how they are become bigger, they grow, the number of passengers growing around 17% from 2015 to 16. And the government is spending 3.5 billion, actually $1 billion in the next 10 years to make Suvarnabhumi growing second time from what we have right now. That's where there is the opportunity for the travel tech and other servicing. And also for developing country, and as we are also, more and more activity in the economics is moving from industrialized going to the service sector, such as travel agency and travel tech, as we are talking about here. Right.
So Thailand has some USPs, right, to be based in this tourism at 17%, like you were saying, etc. I'm going to do something challenging now. I don't know how it will work out. Taro, where is your company incorporated?
We both incorporate in Thailand and in Singapore.
Okay,
Yep.
and Singapore.
Yep.
Why also Singapore?
Because I mean, back then, once we incorporated like 4 years ago, so Thailand still nothing, no one really talk about startups. We also ourselves don't really know what startups means. And then once we see the support, I mean, not the support, like the effectiveness of incorporations, like either like electronic documents, electronically signed, and those kind of like support that help us work efficiently. So we also choose Singapore as well as Thailand as a place where we incorporate.
That makes, of course, my bridge to the public sector. If you're looking at the public sector itself, so we have USPs in Thailand to become this hub. We gather all the corporations to really put some sponsoring, maybe some funding in to build this, and expertise, more important, and maybe even their customers. The bridge to the public sector. What do you think, Kun Songwut, maybe from your angle, what do you think the Thai government should be doing?
Right. I myself have been involving in some of certain government agencies, such as the committee in the National Legislative Assembly. We have been seeing many things happen around us. For example, the one in Singapore, how come people who like to do business, they incorporate in Singapore, but they come to have their operation base, very big base in Thailand, in many business, as you can mention the name. The big guy big player in hotel, the big player in retail shopping, they all came to Thailand as an operation base. And we as a government-related agency, we see that there are some gap in missing out where people cannot really come here easily. There is no one-stop service here, and that's where we should focus on how we can provide such assistance to have these corporate from outside or even inside. We really we need to promote the SME here to be able to stand up, to be able to fight with the big guy.
I would like to add to that.
Right.
A couple of, something we perhaps have to recognize within the tech community in Thailand, but specifically about tourism tech, is still quite young. You mentioned it, 4 years ago, nobody really was talking about startups. And it reminds me of a conversation I had in a different panel a while ago, and the lady next to me was making the point about the difference between the startup scene in Silicon Valley and in China. And the question she was asked is, do you think China could be the next Silicon Valley? And she made a very valid point. She said that it's very difficult to play catch up that quickly. In Silicon Valley, they're already on their third generation of mentors. So you started with Microsoft and HP, and the second generation was then Google, Yahoo. Then you have the Airbnb and Uber. So there's a huge amount of common knowledge and think tank that's been built up in Silicon Valley. So they are a long way ahead. And she was saying that China will find it hard to catch up. Well, if China's going to find it hard to catch up, Thailand's going to find it really hard to catch up. So we will need to import and facilitate the expertise coming in, which means regulation around permits, work visas, incentives, special structures to allow or to entice that foreign expertise in, because we are playing catch up in this particular space.
Shivek, I mean, you're advising the Tourism Council. You've probably been sitting in meetings where this has been discussed, etc. Can you give some insight on what is happening on those meetings?
You really want me to do that, right?
Yes, please.
Well, in just a general overview, it's, again, I still have to, I try to paint this picture for you guys to understand that from my perspective, and I've seen around, I've been around Thailand and I've seen a few places, the knowledge is important, and that's one thing which is not conveyed. I still feel that if you're pushing it from the corporate side, or from the government side, but you have to make sure that people in the industry themselves understand the directions. And there's a big gap. It's very difficult as one formal body trying to communicate throughout Thailand. There's a lot of red tapes. There's a lot of barriers for us to go through. So it's still not clear. I still discussed with you before coming on the stage that for me, I still can't, it's not tangible to me yet, this travel tech industry, which is why, I feel that your joke is going to turn into reality when you come here trying to set one up, because it doesn't exist.
Well, that's great, because that's a huge opportunity, Dan. Yeah. I mean, if it was very clear, everybody would be doing something in it. So that's, like Simon said.
I would say it does exist.
I can't feel it.
No, not in Thailand.
Yeah, not in Thailand.
But if you go to India,
yeah, true. Yeah.
Then it's
story.
very tangible. There is, within each of the VCs that are funding in India, you'll see that there is some travel focus. None of them have yet been dedicated to it, but you'll see there is an intent on it. And the tech is very deep. It goes B2B.
Maybe I can add something to that. Maybe you don't know Shivek.
Yeah, just a few more things I'd like to add, because prior to this, we were talking about the support from the government, right? If you go around and see the support, this is what I've seen. Again, it's not the other categories are there. There's fintech support, there's health tech support, there's social enterprise support, but I've not seen travel tech.
That's correct.
I haven't seen
exactly the reason why we are discussing
and it's ridiculous because for Thailand itself, this is your bread and butter.
Do you know that, just to give an extra reason to do something in travel tech. One is, of course, Thailand is the bread and butter, like you said. You need some corporations, public sector to come together, etc. But for startups as well, and this is something maybe that I learned that when I was still working for Amadeus and setting up Amadeus Next here in Asia. Do you know that like 16% of the unicorns is travel? 16% of the unicorns is travel? I mean, maybe Sam, you can elaborate a little bit on that. Why do you think that's not so well known?
They don't tend to get viewed from that perspective. So it depends how you define travel, really. I think if you define travel as everything you do when you leave your front door, then yes, you include Uber and you include Airbnb. So they participate in those 16 unicorn status companies. In fact, if you add that now, the latest big stuff will be around bike sharing. So the Mobike and Ofo, they're unicorns as well. So sometimes people don't appreciate the full breadth of travel. And it's back to the fragmentation problem again. Things get classified not so much within tourism or travel, they get classified as standalones. And that's something that we as an industry that want to change this, it's our responsibility to change it.
Making the link of fintech, oh, that's the banks, it's easier than travel tech. Well, it's airlines, hotels, it's so many things, right? Okay.
And I would like to add that in many industries, it's true, even for travel, I found the phenomenon that the rich get richer. Once you have become the big guy, you have your importantness, can influence, you can get a cheaper price in terms of volume, in economics of scale, that make you advantage. But then the small one can just come in and maybe just do at your living cost, but not become very rich. And that, if we can change the infrastructure somehow in Thailand to make it possible for this SME to be bigger, that would be a dream for us.
Taro, I mean, this for me is a bridge to you, okay? So, I mean, you have to fight up to the big guys. So first of all, do you acknowledge that that is a big problem and it's very difficult? And secondly, what are your plans? How are you going to beat the big guys?
So I think expertise are one of the things that we need more support and more help, because obviously travel industry have been around for a very long time. So as a startup, so we would like to do something to disrupt them or something new. So we need a lot of inputs on external expertise as one thing. And for your second thing is how do we compete with the big guy? So I would say one of the things that we could see as a strong competitive advantage are because we have a local knowledge here. Also, because I mean, especially because I have been talking with few other guys around, and it seems like in Southeast Asia, the local knowledge are very important. You can see a lot of big unicorn finding it difficulties in order to operate or scale to Southeast Asia. Because they are like, I mean, people have been saying that Southeast Asia are like one of the huge like economic region. However, like there are so many different countries that do speak different languages. They have different culture. So you here. So in order to crack this region, I think the local knowledge are another things that very important.
I don't think it's so much about big versus small. We're a big company, a big back end of technology, and more so than ever, we know that we need smaller companies with the local expertise, with the local presence. I think there's now a general understanding that the two can work very well together. And I would say, we're talking about the platform for ASEAN as a whole, that's the opportunity that faces Thailand as well. Create this central platform, which is the solid backbone of tourism in Asia, and then allow the local experts to attach to it to then build their local models. So try to be the center of the ecosystem. That's what the platform concept is about, and solve the problem or aim for supporting the region as a whole, not just the Thai part.
Right, and one of the big problems encountered to those both small and big guys here are the people, the professional. Now we are having the problem that the IT, the company that came to base operation in Thailand now having quite a problem in finding people to fill that job. Because of why? Because of the education inside Thailand right now, I see is a problem. We are teaching people to be employer. We never teach them how to be the business owner or do have the entrepreneurship knowledge. All of those. This is the problem, and we need to do this quick. Otherwise, we won't be able to be the hub for the ASEAN.
Bart, can I just, is it okay? Can I just bring us back to the point Simon was trying to say? The same model popped up in my head. You know, I was going down to Phuket, Krabi. They're really happy with the OTA. I mean, it seems like OTA are the guys who invested plenty of money creating that ecosystem for the hotels and for the these guys to plug in. And it's a model which is quite successful. I mean, it's successful. It's successful to the part where now the government are stepping in. I can say this, right? There's no problem. It's recorded, I understand. But it's up to a point where the government are stepping in and say, hey, like this is too much. So we have to make sure that, you know about that, right? Yeah, so we have to make sure that whoever does this in the future, it has to be laid out in a way where the government is also partly involved so that it does not, these things don't happen again. Because going down to different places, like Krabi, Phuket, again, hotels are happy with OTA because they don't have to employ a single IT resource or IT staff. They don't have to have any knowledge on how to create their own booking system. They just have the OTA there as an ecosystem for them just to supply their room inventories and sales to start.
Yeah. Simon, does that apply in the rest of the world as well, that hotels are happy with OTAs?
No.
Can you explain
They're not though. I mean,
based on the commissions they have to give up.
They're not. Totally agree.
But there is a strong benefit to the smaller long-tail hotels. Yes. They get an instant kick, and in fact, the other models around the world, the OTA will supply the property management system to the smaller hotel. He then uses it because it's in his benefit to manage his property better, and the availability of the rooms is almost a byproduct for the OTA. So the technology has been given, and those hotels in India are now on the way up. Think about models like Oyo and
So you try to
Nida.
engulf you in, basically, to take you in.
Yeah, but the three-star hotels, then it's different models, Oyo, Nida, but Ibibo Group as well. They give the technology to the hotel for free. They manage their property better, and along with that, sometimes there's a brand recognition that comes along, so the consumer knows what they're getting at that three-star hotel instead of it being a complete gamble. I see once you can get in that cycle, I think it can work very well. Thailand could learn a lot from that.
And it seems to be quite sustainable as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In the long run.
All right.
And also, I would like to add that from the government side, from what I have been seeing and listening, now we are going to have the stock exchange board for listed the startup company as a separate on a stock market, right? And we are having some of the useful web. I list 3 of them right now. For example, thailandstartup.org, that's one. The second one is new.set.or.th. That's second one. The third one is thailandtechshow.com. 3 of those are quite useful. If any of the audience here would like to get the hands on that. And as well that the new project of the EEC, the Eastern Economics Corridor, that would be the prototype where how can we become bigger in this 21st century.
Okay.
Right.
So there are a lot of reasons for Thailand becoming the hub. We've learned from the fintech. There is definitely a need. Not everybody understands how broad travel tech is. What I also learned, like last year, I think, if you look at Singapore is a big startup ecosystem, but if you look at focus, a lot of fintech is there, right? I know that Malaysia is at this moment focusing on big data. So if you look at certain Asian countries, Thailand might become that hub within ASEAN, right? Now, great, we have corporations that are willing to put expertise in, maybe some money. The government, once they've done some policies to really make it easier for startups to go about it, we find some OTAs that also bring consumers in. So what do you do? So now everybody is supporting it, now somebody needs to take it up. What do you do? What would you, as a startup, Taro, like to have with all that money from corporates, from the government support, suppose that's all there, what do you need?
So, assuming that we have all the money support, assuming we have all the things, all those are still something to discuss further on that, but, apart from that, I think we would need just probably, as I already mentioned, like expertise and the talent. So I think with expertise and talent, people who can execute it. So I think we can really push things out. But talking about Thailand, so back to Thailand as a platform, as you say, not just only we operate for travel here, but as a platform. So we have a geography advantage of being one of the big hubs for travel in Asia, even in the world. But these days, if we want to be the platform for travel startups, so technology doesn't need, that would not see as an advantage that much anymore. So that's why we really need to to position ourselves as tech friendly and also friendly in several ways. So those tech startups can actually really be here and disrupted even Thai, ASEAN, or in the world travel tech scene.
I've got a question for you, Bart. So you're asking us what we should do and who should take the first move and how it should start and what is needed to get the platform going, to get the startups up to the skill they need, assuming that we have money and support from the government.
You're asking the same question to me now.
I'm going to ask you, based on your experience in Silicon Valley, discussions you had over there, what is it that we should focus on importing to Thailand? What is the model? What's the golden model that we should be bringing here?
Well, normally a moderator asks the questions, right?
Okay.
Okay, I'll give you a look into, I mean, I've been a couple of times to the Valley the last 6 months. I've in New York, also some travel tech ecosystems in Europe. And the things are there, okay? So you have the big incubators, the big accelerators. I mean, stories full of startups, thousands of startups, VCs, there is money. The whole supporting part is there. Government is supporting it, that's there. So from that angle, it's well organized. On the other hand, what I hear startups say is that it's very short term. So they go into an incubation or into an acceleration, it's 3 months, and then they fall in a gap. Yeah? So they learn something, it's like a school, a crash course in how to do growth marketing, how to do lean startup, how to get outside of your building, validate, iterate. But after those 3 months, they fall into a gap. And the gap is then filled by 500 startups maybe, by, I mean, the VC, of course. The investors that put seed capital in, like 100,000 USD, and that is a spray and pray. They're just betting on many startups and just hoping that ultimately one of them becomes the unicorn who is paying for all the others. But the startup themselves, they have this feeling of, what now? I have 100,000 euro, I have 200,000 euro, I got a lot of courses, now suddenly I cannot be a business. It's not because you had a crash course to becoming a surge, right, that you suddenly can start operating people. So this is something that I think that startups, definitely from that angle, there is more need to help them, to maybe even co-build them in a way. So when you have all these things, I'm really more looking at the model of a science in the US, where they had this startup studio, you know. It's a model where the guys are thinking about an idea, and these guys had the idea of having a razor, the $1 razor club. The $1 billion razor club. Well, they had this idea and they launched it and they iterated and they built it and ultimately became this is something I think that startups also could use. So
we're getting a bit closer towards that. I see that there has been some CVC, or there are some plans for CVCs in travel and tourism. I don't know whether we've actually gone into the startup studio model. I haven't seen any startup studio models. Have you?
I think that there's some few of them, but haven't been very well known.
Yeah, I think there is one here in Bangkok, Santoda Kanama, but that's mainly a startup studio that is starting from the ideation phase. So you see some problems in an industry and you start doing ideation, and then you get out of the building, you test it, and once you test it, you go outside and hire an entrepreneur. The thing what I'm seeing is that the startups themselves, when you are already a startup, when you have already some minimum viable product, they need better help to enable them to scale quicker to a Series A. So that's something that I validated really also in the Valley and in Madrid and in Amsterdam and Berlin. So might be definitely a model.
Right. There is also another big word called sandbox, right? That people in the government have been discussed and trying to put in place for these small guys to have a playground to try their business model. And I think if it become a true one, a realistic one, then it should be useful. As well as I would like to add that money is all around in Thailand, and from outside we are globalization. Money is not an issue. An issue is in the process of how we nurturing this system to go sustain, right?
That's a really good, I mean, I'm looking also at the time, And I need to wrap up a little bit the panel at this moment, so this is great. So I started with saying, did I make the right decision to leave Amadeus and come to Bangkok? There is a lot of opportunity, apparently. So happy there's a lot of money. Really great. The thing is that how you're going to go about this, I mean, really basing yourself in Bangkok, becoming a platform or a hub is something else. So I would like to thank at this moment mainly the panel. I'm very happy that I'm here and I have an opportunity to really set up something. So I will talk to all of these guys, of course, afterwards to see whether they really mean what they said. So thank you very much, Kun Songwut, Kun Simon, Kun Shivek, and Kun Taro, and that's it.
Thank you.
All gentlemen, and thank you to you, Mr. Bellers, for making this session very fun talks and interesting. Thank you. We take a bow to you. One more round of applause. น่าสนใจจริงๆนะคะหลายไอเดียที่มาฝากให้กับทุกท่านเป็นไอเดียที่พวกเราคิดถึงหมดเลยค่ะเพียงแต่ว่าเราจะสามารถนำไปประยุกต์อย่างใดบ้างเหล่านี้ก็ต้องอยู่ที่ทุกท่านค่ะร่วมมือกันนะคะสำหรับในช่วงต่อไปค่ะเราขอนำทุกท่านมาติดตามกันดีกว่าใครที่กำลังอยู่ในช่วงของการมองหาการลงทุนใหม่ๆโดยเฉพาะอย่างยิ่งค่ะจะเป็นประโยชน์สำหรับเหล่า Angel เราขอนำทุกท่านมาติดตามกันนะคะเพราะว่าหัวข้อนี้จะทำให้ทุกท่านนั้นได้เห็นค่ะว่าโอกาสในการสร้างวัฒนธรรมในการลงทุนให้กับ Angel Investor นั้นมีโอกาสอย่างไรบ้างคุณจะเห็นอย่างไรว่าสตาร์ทอัพเหล่านี้ธุรกิจด้านนี้เหมาะในการลงทุนและเห็นศักยภาพในการลงทุนมากขึ้นนะคะมาติดตามกันค่ะ